begin by reviewing the Northeast region.
Maine, Pennsylvania, New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey.
And we got a Missouri. Because people are saying Massachusetts and changing their mind to New Jersey. Is this one Massachusetts?
No.
No. Does it have a hook on it? No. This is a hook. This one is New Jersey. New York, New Jersey. New York, New Jersey. All right. What's this one?
Massachusetts.
The one that goes around the hook. That's Massachusetts.
Rhode Island, Connecticut.
All right. Now the ones that are written on here. All right.
West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, Arkansas.
You guys are getting fast at that. I know you're still reading them, but all right. Now we need to read, starting on page 104. All right. War for Independence. This is still talking about George Washington. First and more, England had passed laws that were not fair to the American colonies. England made the colonies pay taxes, but King George III of England would not let the colonists help make their own laws. The colonists sent a letter to King George. This letter asked him to take away the unfair laws. Instead, the king sent soldiers from England to force the colonists to obey him. Top of the next page. Many American colonists became angry. They called a meeting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to decide what to do. It was at this meeting that George Washington was chosen to be Commander-in-Chief of the American Army. From that time on, he was called General Washington. The fighting he had done with the English on the French and Indian War would now help him fight against the English in the American War for Independence. In 1775, the war began. The next year, on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was approved. In this paper, the Americans said they were free from the rule of the King of England. This did not mean the war was over. The war had just begun. The Americans had to prove to England that they meant every word they said in the Declaration of Independence. The English sent more trained soldiers to fight the colonists. These soldiers had plenty of guns, food, and supplies. Since these British soldiers' uniform coats were red, many colonists called them red coats. The colonists who joined Washington's army were usually farmers and were not trained to fight. Many did not have guns, supplies, or food. Even though General Washington's soldiers were not trained in war, they had courage and believed they were fighting for what was right. Months and even years passed, but neither side was willing to give up. The disease of smallpox spread through the army. Many soldiers became sick and some died. General Washington did not have to worry about getting this disease and leaving his army without a general. You will remember that he had this disease as a teenager and could not get it again. The American army was hungry and poor. Many wore rags for clothing. Many did not even have shoes to wear as they marched in the cold winter across the ice and snow. General Washington did his best to encourage his men. He knew that if America was to be a free country, the army must not give up. One page. Stop and think. It is said that I need you to please stop trying. It is said that a villager passing through the woods near General Washington's camp saw him on his knees in prayer for his troops. The villager told his family that he knew America would win the war because its leader did not trust in his own strength, but in God. When you need help, you can trust in God to help you too. Read the verse with me. The Bible says, "And call upon me in the day of trouble. I will song, 50-15. France helps America. Benjamin Franklin asked the King of France to help the Americans. What a happy day it was for General Washington when he learned that French ships were on their way to America. With French help, Washington knew that America would win. General Washington began to make plans for a battle. This battle took place in Yorktown, Virginia. Here, the British Army was surrounded by the Americans and the French. The British fought hard, but finally had to surrender, which means to give up. The Battle of Yorktown was the last great battle in the war that became known as the American War for Independence. 2 years later, in 1783, a treaty would be signed officially ending the war. What was the name of that treaty?
Treaty of Paris.
Good.